Evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome again. We've just finished the second day of successful Executive Board meeting. Without further ado, the President of the IOC, Thomas Bach, will make a few opening remarks and then we'll go straight to your questions. So, President, over to you.
Thank you very much, and welcome to all of you, and thank you very much for your great interest in the work of our Executive Board, which was concentrating today in a very productive way on sports and the Olympic Games and of the social responsibility. They're also related to the great success of the Games and of the Olympic movement. Of course, the focus was on the report of Tokyo 2020 as the next edition of the Games. There, the organizing committee gave a very impressive report about the progress being made. Of course, there was also a very comprehensive presentation on how the organizing committee is addressing the challenge of the coronavirus. As a conclusion, we can say that the OCOC is absolutely in line with the IOC Executive Board, as expressed in the statement of the Executive Board yesterday. There also the OCOC has today renewed and reinforced its full commitment to successful Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. There the stage is set. All competition venues are complete. 4.5 million Olympic tickets have been sold domestically in Japan. And to give you an indication of the enthusiasm of the Japanese people around these Olympic Games, one figure is maybe interesting. For these 4.5 million tickets, there were over 80 million requests since the start of the sale tickets in Japan. We will have an important milestone on the way to these Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, when next week in ancient Olympia we will light the Olympic flame with a traditional ceremony at the birthplace of the Olympic Games more than 3,000 years ago. We also heard reports from Beijing, Paris, and Milano Cortina, as well as LA. There may be of most of interest for you, but at least what I think may be Beijing, because of the challenges with the coronavirus there in China. Despite these challenges, the organizing committee could present a report which shows with impressive numbers how successful they are in their engagement program. So they are well on target to make 300 million Chinese people familiar with winter sports. They have already now, just a couple of months after the start of the program, already now 670,000 applications for just 39,000 volunteer positions. And the application phase is still going on until next year. So we can expect some more record numbers. And also the marketing program is extremely well underway. there are already 10 marketing partners. They had to cancel in China the FIS World Cup, but on the other hand, we were informed about very successful China National Winter Games, which were held at the new Olympic venues. We also heard a report from Dakar 2022. There, the organizing committee has now formally been established just a couple of days ago. There is a close cooperation with the IOC, and there is a very strong engagement of the international community to make this first ever Olympic sports event on the African continent a great success. We also heard a report for the first time from the chair of the future host commission for the Games of the Olympiad, Christine Kloster-Hasen, and there she could tell us that there is already now a very healthy interest, as she put it, in the organization of the Olympic Summer Games, and that means from 2032 on, means 12 years away from these games, already a very healthy interest, and the same is true for the Youth Olympic Games. Then, with regard to social responsibility, as I mentioned, the IOC took some milestone decisions today. The first one with regard to sustainability, and there in particular with regard to climate change. The Olympic Games will be climate positive from 2030 on, and therefore in line with the timeline of the SDGs. Climate positive means that the carbon savings the Games create will exceed the potential negative impact of their operations. This, of course, will not come by itself, but the road to 2030 is already built. Tokyo, Beijing, Paris, Milano, Cortina, and Paris have already committed to be carbon neutral. There, with these games, it will be about reducing then the carbon emissions, and in this way needing less compensation to make the games carbon neutral. And there also, to give you the flavor of this commitment, Paris, as the first host of Olympic Games, which fully benefits from the reforms of Olympic Agenda 2020, will cut the carbon emissions in half compared to Tokyo. We will have in Tokyo about 2.9 million tons of emissions related to the Games, which will be fully compensated, and it will be fully means not only related to the activities of the OCOC, but to the Olympic Games as such. And Paris is aiming for a reduction of these carbon emissions to 1.5 million already. And for the hosts from 2030 on, the IOC will make this commitment to be climate positive obligatory in the host city contract. This is a commitment with regard to the organization of the Olympic Games. But there is a second commitment with regard to the IOC as an organization. You know, the IOC as an organization is carbon neutral already since 2017. But here again, we want to lead by example, and we do not want only to tell the organizers of the Olympic Games you have to be climate positive. The IOC itself wants to lead by example and wants to become climate positive as soon as possible, and that means way before 2030. So as a part there of these efforts to become climate positive as soon as possible, the IOC will start planting an Olympic forest starting in 2021. And this will help the IOC to become their climate positive. And with this Olympic forest, we will contribute to the project which is backed by the United Nations environmental program, by UNEP, and is initiated by the African Union with a number of African states and some other international organizations, and which is planned for the Sahel region of Africa. The other decision with regard to gender, with regard to social responsibility concerns gender-balanced Olympic Games. You know that in Tokyo, for the first time, we will have gender-balanced Olympic Games with 48.8% of women participating in the Games. Now you may say this is not an exact parity of 50-50. Yes, it's true, but you also know the reasons for this, that these small margins is mainly only because of the number of qualified teams in some sports. And I can tell you that when discussing this number of 48.8%, means close to 49%, with the Director General of UN Women, I got the explicit permission to speak of gender-balanced Olympic Games, and I think you will understand very well that I'm happy to use this privilege. Today we took a decision which will take this gender balance a step further, because we decided today that, again for the first time ever, in all the teams participating there should be at least one female and one male athlete at the Games of the Olympiad Tokyo 2020. And we furthermore decided to change the IOC protocol guide to allow one female and one male athlete of each NOC to carry the flag jointly during the opening ceremony of the Games of the Olympiad, and we will encourage all national Olympic committees there to make use of this option. Finally, the IOC Executive Board today decided to propose to the next IOC session in July in Tokyo to have the IOC session in 2023 in Mumbai, India. Why India? India is the second most populous nation of the world. It's a nation with a very young population, and it's a nation which is having a huge potential for Olympic sport, and we want to tap on this great potential and want to encourage and support the National Olympic Committee of India and all the national federations to really promote and strengthen Olympic sports in India. And this year 2032 coincides with the 75th anniversary of Indian independence. So we think that this is a very good year. That was it for today, and of course I'm open to any kind of questions you may have.
Thank you very much, President. I think a lot of announcements, a lot of news there, so open for questions if you'd like to. You seem to be over this side, Rachel, so if we start, yeah, at the back here, then we'll come forward. Yeah, start here and then we'll move, yeah, Steve. Yeah.
Thank you. Mr. President, obviously nobody wants the Games not to go ahead, but because of the uncertain nature of the coronavirus, I wondered, like every other international body, like every government, you will have discussed contingency plans. What are your options?
I can tell you that today in the meeting of the executive board, neither the word cancellation nor the word postponement was even mentioned. Of course, we are a responsible organization. This is why we have this joint task force, which is having regular meetings, and there we are addressing there are any issues which may arise, but we are not speculating on any kind of future developments.
Okay, let's go to Dan from BBC.
Thank you. Mr. President, realistically, how late could you make a decision to potentially delay the Games if you had to, if the advice came from the WHO or from governments to do so? And also, do you, despite your assurance today, do you understand why people are worried, given the effect this is having on sport worldwide now?
Again, I will not add fuel to the flame of speculation by giving a date here, giving a date out, and fueling more speculations. Our statement from yesterday is very clear. We are fully committed, and we continue to work with the task force, and the same is true for the organizing committee. We have challenges now with the qualifications. There, you know the many measures we have been undertaking. This is challenging, yes, but I must also say I'm pretty proud of the Olympic movement, of the great solidarity and flexibility everybody has shown there so far to address these challenges and to ensure their fair qualification. This is for the athletes, you know, who have to change their travel destinations, even time zones where the sites for qualification tournaments are changed within days. They have to readjust and in the same time to continue to prepare. They have to face travel restrictions and so on. This is true for national Olympic committees who are great hosts and offering on very short notice there to be hosts to qualification tournaments. This is true for international federations who accommodate these changes and who accommodate also many teams, in particular many members of the Chinese team in different countries. To allow them to train and to compete in third countries, to stay there, to travel from there to competition, so that they are not subject to quarantine or other restrictions. This is really a great demonstration of Olympic solidarity. And if we are supporting this in all the ways we can. So far we have managed, but we have also indicated that if we should come there at our limits, we may have in one or the other case to then consult with the respective international federations with regard to quota allocations, if there should be a case where athletes would be prevented from taking part in the qualification procedure because of the coronavirus.
Yeah.
Thank you, President. Kosuke Nagaki from Asahi Shimbun. Also, question about Tokyo 2020. Certain amount of people in Japan have kind of trauma of Sapporo because marathon and race walk was suddenly moved to Sapporo with sudden surprise, and people are worried that same thing might happen to coronavirus. Could you give a message to the Japanese people? And one more question is, once the situation is settled in Japan, will the game will go ahead as scheduled, or Olympic is such a global event, it depends on the other country situation? Thank you.
First of all, you cannot compare the decision concerning Sapporo and the marathon, which we have taken in broad consultation with many stakeholders, with the coronavirus. You can only compare it in the way that both decisions and both approaches are being taken in order to safeguard the health and the well-being of the athletes. And with regards to the Games, Tokyo 2020, it is still true. What we said yesterday is even more true because the organizing committee has joined this statement. We are fully committed in successful Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
Okay, let's move across in the middle here.
Luana Mose from Fuji Television. Could you tell us what the Japanese delegation explained on coronavirus? And second question, we heard that after the explanation, you expressed even more confidence in the holding of the Tokyo Games. Could you tell us why? What made you even more confident? And the last question is, if the number of infected cases grows even more in Japan, and if the WHO declares coronavirus pandemic, would you reconsider the Tokyo Games?
First, let me start with the second part. I'm here not for speculation. If this is happening or that is happening, then we may. I will not take part in any way, and the IOC as such will not take part in any way in such a kind of mere speculations. Secondly, the organizing committee there explained what they have already explained in detail to the joint task force. This is about the measures having been taken by the Japanese government. This is about the measures they are discussing about with regard to the torch relay. This is about measures having been taken with cancellation of one event or the other in Japan, outside the Olympic Games. This had to do with some of the test events which took place without spectators, with regard to other events which took place with a reduced number of spectators, and a whole long list, and all this together makes us confident, because we could see from this that there is a close cooperation between the organizing committee, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government, the Japanese government, and that the decisions are being taken in a very responsible way after very diligent deliberation.
Okay, let's move on. Yeah, let's move along with these two here. Yeah, Mark and chat next to you. Yeah.
Thank you for taking my questions. I'm Tomoyuki Oyagi, TBS Paris. So, after this meeting, I understand you are more confident with holding Tokyo 2020, but you have not mentioned IOC will hold Tokyo 2020 100% for sure. So, what is needed for making decision, reaching a conclusion to hold the Olympic Games?
Do you have an agreement among yourself that you try there to get me into speculation? There finally, I can assure you I will not get tired to repeat the statement I made. The IOC is fully committed and we are not participating in any kind of speculation.
Okay, let's go to Mark from the
Bon, je vais commencer par une question, juste une précision, ensuite je aurai quand même une question par rapport au coronavirus. La question générale, pour être sûr d'avoir compris, le double porte-drapeau pour la cérémonie d'ouverture, ça s'appliquera dès les Jeux de Tokyo, un homme et une femme. Merci de la réponse. Et la deuxième question, je m'adresse surtout aux juristes que vous êtes, d'un point de vue formel, que ce soit pour les Jeux de Tokyo, de Paris, de Pinsagel ou Escada Crab, qui peut prendre une décision de reporter ou d'annuler les Jeux? Est-ce que c'est le comité d'organisation, le CIO, tous les deux ensemble? Et deuxième question, est-ce que le coronavirus fait partie des motifs éventuels d'annulation ou de report qui vous permettraient de faire jouer les assurances que vous avez souscrites?
My time as chairman of the at the time juridical commission is a long time over. Even the name has changed now, so I will not dare to give any kind of legal advice here at this moment, because there I would be afraid that being sued afterwards by somebody, and you know this. Question is not on the table. It's not under consideration. So I'm not aware of these details.
Yes, Carlos from Reuters.
Carlos from Reuters, Mr. President. A question on sponsors and broadcasters. Obviously, the coronavirus has caused a lot of problems over the last 2 months. You've had talks with broadcasters, sponsors over the last period. What is their feeling in your discussions with them regarding the Tokyo Games? Thank you.
Thank you. I have not discussed with any broadcaster in the last couple of weeks. The only thing I can tell you that there we also had a report during this executive board meeting about the World Broadcasters meeting, which had been planned for Beijing but had to be moved because of the virus to Madrid. and we were told that it was a very successful meeting in a very good atmosphere.
Okay, let's go to, behind you, Brian and Graham, AP, and then...
Brian Pinelli, Around the Rings. President Bach, just a few other topics. Was there any update regarding the International Boxing Federation? And if so, any progress there? Do you have optimism, hope for their future? And secondly, about confirming Tahiti as the surfing host for 24. How do you envision that working as far as instilling the Olympic spirit in this tiny island so far away? And will athletes have the option, if they'd like, to attend opening and closing ceremonies? Surfers.
With regard to, thank you first of all for the first not virus question. With regard to AIBA, we had a report on the ongoing qualification procedures, and there, while we had the African qualifier just a couple of days ago in Dakar, Senegal, and while we are sitting here, we have the ongoing Asian Oceanian qualifier in Amman. The responses are very positive, and in particular, we have been informed by some statements of some experienced boxing athletes, some saying it's the best competition they ever took part in, others saying that is the fairest refereeing they have ever experienced. So this was a very good response to the efforts that we undertook to organize these qualifiers. We also had a very short report there of the monitoring group of AIBA, which is, as you know, separate from the organizing group for the competition, and there you would not get me to say that I'm optimistic, and this is not because the report was so short. So we will have to see how this will go on. We keep monitoring this, but I cannot say more at this moment in time.
Okay.
And then, then Tahiti, we have heard the report and. From Paris, and there for us there were in particular 2 points where the important ones. Then the one was athletes' experience. There we were told and got also the numbers and the background that the surfing athletes are really eager to have this competition in Tahiti because of the conditions there, the waves, and the other one was the sustainability issue, and there we could see that this decision does not affect the project I just presented there, that the games in 2030 will become climate positive, and will also not affect the commitment of Paris to be carbon neutral.
Thank you, President. Yes, Graham Dunbar.
Hi, from the AP. 2 questions, please. Apologise. Just a quick one on coronavirus. Could you say how much the IOC is paying for the cancellation insurance premium, and how much coverage that provides you? It seems to be sort of trending towards about 20
No,
million.
I don't know.
Okay. And on a
Because
governance,
it was not the topic. So.
okay, on a governance issue with FINA, the Sun Yang case has sort of highlighted some issues there. It's been clear for a while that FINA is probably not best-in-class governance. And both the Sun Yang case and the creation of the ISL League, there's clearly a lot of lack of trust among the athletes. There's one very eminent Olympic coach today calling for FINA leadership to be removed before the Olympics. Given that the EB in recent years has taken decisions that quite quickly led to a change of leadership in wrestling and in boxing, are there any circumstances in which you could see trying to intervene with FINA, given that they're on track, it seems, next year to elect a president in waiting who's got a lot of legal baggage in the United States as well?
There is, first of all, the Sun Yang case. There is a CAS case, and we have no indication that FINA will not apply the CAS decision. And of course, for the IOC, this decision is also binding. With regard to the anti-doping policy, the compliance with the WADA code, this is a matter for WADA. The rules have been changed to strengthen the monitoring system, and we have full confidence that WADA will do their job, monitoring all the international federations with regard to the compliance with the WADA code. And with regard to other governance issues, we have not heard, at least during this executive board, anything from our compliance office or from the ethics commission. And if one coach is calling for a resignation of somebody, I don't know for which reasons and for what would be the background of this. And FINA, there is also not the only federation which faces commercial competition. This we have in many other sports. So this is not necessarily a governance issue.
Yeah, Liam Morgan from Inside the Games.
Liam Morgan, Inside the Games. Two questions, Mr. President, if I may. Firstly, to go back to the coronavirus.
Thank you.
On the qualification specifically, you said that you might look to international federations to alter their quota places, depending on how qualification goes or something, events being cancelled. What exactly do you mean by that? Are you suggesting some international federations might lose quota places if they don't sort their qualification system out amid this virus? And still on the virus, you've said repeatedly that you don't want to get involved with speculation or fueling the fire or the flames of speculation. With that in mind, what was your response to the Olympics minister's comments yesterday, as she seemed to do exactly that? Thank you.
Okay, the first question concerns athletes who may be prevented from taking part in the qualification procedure because of the coronavirus. If such cases should arise, then we will look together with the international federation, the respective international federation, into this, and will then try to find a fair solution. And this fair solution can mean, in the end, that we will increase the quota places for this international federation for a limited number of athletes, which, according then to the judgment of the international federation, would most likely have qualified if they could have participated. And with regard to the second question, I think the Executive Board has given the answer yesterday with our full commitment, and the organizing committee has given their answer today with their full commitment.
Alex.
Just to continue on coronavirus, if I may. All the experts around the world are saying it's really difficult to predict how this is going to play out, how coronavirus is going to play out. So on what grounds are you so confident that the Games will go ahead as planned?
Because we are in contact with all these leading experts. The World Health Organization is a member of the joint task force. We have an own task force within the IOC with experts. The organizing committee has a task force, and then we are getting together in the joint task force. And based on this information and on this consultation, we are fully committed to the success of the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020.
Okay, gentlemen, here, probably two more questions, I think. So, thank you.
So Shane from China Central Television, CCTV. My first question is still about the coronavirus. That is, the virus may continue to exist, and as there are going to be any measures to protect the athletes and any measures you are taking for the athletes coming from the countries with the epidemic going on. And the second thing is, as you know, that the number of the cases has been declining in China, and WHO said that some experience can be learned from China as well. So are there any experiences that can be used as well in the Olympic Games to protect more people and to help the Games? Thank you.
We are a sports organization, and we are follow the advice of the World Health Organization.
Okay, yeah. Just here.
Matthew Dixon with CNN Money Switzerland. In your experience as the president and your experience as an athlete, which is 50 years now, have you ever known a month as interesting?
Do you need to give this number there so precisely?
Have you ever known a month as interesting or as stressful as this?
Many.
Can you give me a couple of examples professionally?
We to just go to the recent past. We had before the Olympic Winter Games Tokyo, a couple of months before, we had a situation where we did not know whether we could have Olympic Winter Games on the Korean Peninsula at all. There we were talking about nuclear strikes, about missiles, about boycotts, about peace and war. A couple of months before Rio, we were talking about the Zika virus, at the time also in consultation with the World Health Organization, where we had about the same questions as we have here now, a couple of months before Rio. I would not remember any of these questions than in Rio, but before there were many. Because you were so politely referring to my time as an athlete, we had the boycott discussion about the Olympic Games Moscow in 1980. We had the counter boycott in Los Angeles 1984. We had terrorist attack on Munich in 1972. We had African boycott in 1976. You need more?
Okay, we take one more question. Gentleman here, final question.
I'm Badi Afshin from Iran International TV. You said that you're taking advice from experts and WHO regarding the COVID-19, but the general manager of WHO is saying that we are in uncharted territory. We don't know anything about coronavirus and the new coronavirus. How can you be so sure about Tokyo 2020?
I had a conversation with the Director General of the World Health Organization and the leading people in the organization last Friday. And when we say we are fully committed to the success of the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020, we took this conversation into consideration, as well as the contribution and advice the World Health Organization is giving on a regular basis to the Joint Task Force.
Thank you, President. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you for your great interest in gender and climate. And have a nice evening and afternoon.
Yeah. And we see you in Tokyo in July. Thank you.
Donc en fait, on pose des questions.